we are.
The lights, yes.
Aziz, light.
Vanessa, could you just, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I can't even see my questions. Okay, here we go. So now look, you've made a couple of shorts, a TV movie, a music video, and this is your second theatrical feature. I will admit I haven't seen your first film, but I feel VIOLETT is a real, well, it's a labour of love, and I wanted to know a little bit about how it came about, its origins, its the screenplay. So I just need to turn that back on. It should be on. Yeah, testing. There we go. Mushrooms and LSD. Actually. No, just joking.
It's not joking.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Fuck. It's really hard to pinpoint where ideas come from. I guess they're sort of, you know, they're made up of the spicks and specks of our subconscious. Jeez. I thought we were going to have house lights here. I wasn't expecting can you turn those babies down? Can you just turn them down a little bit? Yeah. Do we really need them?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, anyway, sorry. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so it's really hard to sort of figure out exactly where ideas come from. They're sort of made up of all these different spicks of our subconscious, I think, and I think that the creative choices that we make are dictated by that as well. I guess it started with a question that popped into my mind. I was probably going through an existential crisis moment. You know, what if the person that you loved most disappeared, and you never found out what happened to them, you know, so you never got closure, and what would that would do to the mind, and so it sort of became a story about how we sort of see the world through a different lens, I guess, or through a different set of colours when we're, you know, going through extreme mental trauma. So I never sort of set out with the objective to make a, you know, horror film that was going to frighten people. That wasn't the objective. Mm-hmm. I guess the horrifying aspects of it evolved and developed around that initial. Almost concept. Organically, in a sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Georgia. I mean, yeah, it's obviously a very thematically kind of dark, quite heavy film. And actually, curiously, it happens to be the second thematically heavy and grim film that you've got out this year, the first one being Godless. I don't know if anyone here has seen Godless, which has been released this year, that Georgia stars in, which you're also superb in as well, I might add. How did you prep then for this role in VIOLETT? I imagine, you know, you're already simpatico with Steven because you've actually got history in terms of
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so Steve and I worked together on The Crossing, which was Steve's, is that your first feature? Yeah, first feature, which was great. So Steve and I already knew each other, which really helped. I shot VIOLETT before I shot Godless, and they were back to back. So
wow.
VIOLETT was great to kind of really set the mood for about 6 months of my life. But it was good. It was, I mean, obviously it really helped that I knew Steve and I knew Polly and most of the crew already. So I would say going into it, it was a very trusting environment, especially when you're dealing with such a heavy film. But yeah, obviously Steve and I kind of have this shorthand, which we're lucky. Especially when, you know, you're doing things, you're trying to get through things quite fast. I think it's really important to kind of have that and have that trust and just rely on each other like that. So I'd say we're lucky in that regard.
Obviously, funding an independent film can be arduous, I suppose. It can, for some, it can be kind of soul crushing.
I want to know a little bit about, maybe if you're prepared to tell a little bit about how you kind of funded something, and how did you put your cast and crew together.
So it didn't have a huge budget. It wasn't $1 million or anything like that, so we still had to think very out of the box. My first film, The Crossing, I guess I kind of leveraged off that a little bit, because that was made for nothing, and so that, I guess, it attracted the attention of particular investors, and they said, "Oh, we'll put our money towards this guy." And yeah, they gave us a few $100,000, and that's how it kicked off. So it was nice to have a bit of a budget, because The Crossing really didn't have anything. So it felt like, yeah, you're making a real movie for the first time. But look, budget is always going to be a constraint, but I don't think it's the biggest constraint. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with $5 million or 50,000. I think we're always going to be, punching well above what we want as filmmakers. So I think for me, finding the balance, across the film was probably the biggest challenge. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of narrative and what I wanted to show versus there's that little that voice inside your head that's going, the audience, you kind of forget about them. So, it's a very embellishing piece, and I think that you run the risk of, being a bit pretentious or indulgent. So finding that balance between, what I wanted to show and I guess, keeping the audience engaged without giving them too much was definitely the hardest challenge of it all.
Although, as you said in your award acceptance speech, your partner, your fiance, saying you need to make the film that you want to make.
Yes, exactly. So again, very hard balance to get right. I mean, you want to make the film that you want to make, but you can't forget about your audience.
Now, this film is obviously feels very rich in symbolism, in metaphor, the atmosphere. Tell me how important are a lot of those elements to you, and getting those expressed to an audience? Do you feel like there are rules that you need to follow, or do you feel like you're out there to break rules? Or it's a little bit of carrying on from where we're just previous.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was privileged to be able to work with the production designer in Polly, way before the script or the screenplay was actually complete. I could bounce off ideas with her, and so we integrated a lot of the production design into the story long before that. So we were allowed to really discuss the symbolism, the hidden sort of meanings, and all the things that we said at the beginning were hopefully would make to a film that people could watch second, third time and still get stuff out of.
Mm-hmm.
So so I'm grateful to be able to have Polly for that, and indulge in that, I guess. Good to say. Hi, Polly. Your name's going to come up a lot tonight.
Georgia, I love that your performance, a lot of it is body language, I think, and less almost dialogue and a lot of about expression. And I'm curious to know about, we're curious to know about the acting experience for you, and whether that was something that Steven got you to do.
I think there was a lot of dialogue maybe cut out as well, because this is the first time I've seen it tonight. So I'm trying to wind my brain back to 2021. But yeah, I think there was a lot cut out, but I think it was definitely for the better, because it just makes it that much more tense. I think we definitely worked a lot. We were lucky that we had a lot of rehearsal time beforehand, with just Steve and I, and also Sam, who plays the husband in the film. And I would say that was we really tried to get the body language right, and just kind of making that, I guess, a point of focus of how much she really was struggling throughout the film, and hopefully we conveyed that.
Oh, I can talk for Georgia if that's
Oh,
okay.
thank you.
Georgia, one of the great things about her as an actor is, she's just got this uncanny ability to just kind of drop into the role. And particularly with a role like Sonia, it's a complete transformation. I know a lot of screen acting is just getting into the moment, but she's able to do it. You can't really appreciate it unless you're on set. But this transformation that happens so quickly is astonishing. And it's not like she's just demonstrating, as well. It's not a demonstration. She's fully in the character psychologically. So, I mean, for me, we did a lot of rehearsals, but rehearsals for us is sort of discussion and talking about context and, character motivation and all of those things. And then, which is probably one of the most fun aspects of the process for me. And then when we're on set, I guess my role as director changes a little bit, and I sort of become like a messenger, just reminding her what the character's thinking from moment to moment. And hopefully I try to give her a bit of freedom. So she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Another relationship I think that's very important and very obvious in this film is your relationship with your DOP. It's an incredibly striking film, stunning cinematography, but I also feel that there's probably quite a lot of post-production as well, and the editing, and I wanted you to maybe talk a little bit about that process. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a fucking hard movie to put together. Seriously. I worked with Shane on The Crossing, so we have an interesting relationship. We've been mates for years. We've taught together. We fight a lot on set, which I think is healthy. We've got a very interesting relationship. But I mean, the post-production on this bloody thing went on for a long time. I mean, the execution had to be, razor sharp. One thing that was out was going to bring the whole film down. But then in post, the editing was stringent, and it just went on and on. And then we had to sort of bring in, people and test, how, they were positioned from moment to moment to make sure that we were, on the right direction. I mean, fucking hard movie to put together. But I worked with Ben, who did an amazing job on the sound, with the music as well. The music was, there's a lot of music in this film. Yeah. And it just went on. It went on and on, I tell you. It never ended.
I'm often asked what makes a great horror movie. I find myself saying sometimes, well, a happy ending isn't always necessarily a great horror movie, but I sometimes wonder, what truth is in that, because, there are obviously great horror films that don't necessarily have a grim ending, although, this has a very powerful ending. What do you both think in terms of horror movies? Should they have a grim ending? Is that something that should be a rule or not a rule? What I'm kind of curious.
I think I've watched, the only two horrors I've watched is films that I'm in, so I'm not a good person. I can't watch horrors. Watching the shorts today, I was like this, so yeah, no.
I think that with horror, part of the charm of the genre is that it doesn't have rules. That it's limitless, really. It's extremely personal from a creative's point of view, and also, to the viewer. And it, taps into our personal anxieties and fears, but it's also got this incredible existentialism as well. And it's fun. It's like an amusement park ride. One thing that, cracks me up, it's, you always get people, they say, I can't do horror, I don't like horror. Fair enough, but one thing's for sure, if there's tension on the screen, they will be watching. They'll be bloody watching. They may not enjoy every moment, they may say they don't like it, but they will be watching. So I think horror has this powerful grip and immediacy that just sucks you in. And I love that. Sorry, I haven't really answered your question though.
No.
I think I've sort of answered it, I guess. But no, I guess the answer is no. I don't think you necessarily do need to have a grim ending. You know.
Yeah. I'd like to throw it out to the audience here. Have we got any questions from the audience? Lauren?
Steven, watching VIOLETT, and this is the second time that I've watched it. Congratulations, it's an amazing
thank you.
film. I really enjoyed it. There's some very clear stylistic choices, and I'm very curious, who are your horror or genre-specific influences?
Oh man, so
Film
many.
making.
That's,
Just a
oh.
quick one.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I mean, geez, I'm influenced by so many things. I mean, it's not just directors. I mean, you start with Hitchcock and Aronofsky and David Lynch and those guys. But, you know, I guess for me, horror started when I was a kid and I was afraid of the dark, you know, and it starts with that simple thing of, you know, what's in the darkness, and, you know, your imagination runs wild, and you start thinking of all the different kind of monsters that could be lurking. We lived in a house that was built in the early 90s, so they had this very long passageway with the bathroom right at the end of the hall. And of course I used to wet the bed. Sorry for sharing. But you know, so I'd get up in the middle of the night, wet, and I would look down the hall, this long foreboding hall, and I would take a deep breath and I would just sprint as fast as I could right to the end. And I thought that imagining some Leviathan was going to, you know, grab me on the way down. That's really how it started for me. And Dad at the time when I was 10 just filled me up with Hitchcock, and well, I guess it started from there.
I think that's the best answer all night.
Childhood trauma.
Yes.
Hi, congratulations on the movies, guys.
Thanks.
Really great, I really enjoyed it. Question for Georgia. Obviously, as soon as you read the script, you knew your character's secret, but I'd be interested to know where you were psychologically in terms of performance throughout the film, particularly in the first two acts, whether you were playing it ever that your character was cognizant of what had happened, or whether you were always playing it like she repressed.
Deep question.
Definitely played it like she repressed it. I think that was the only way I could. I think there was glimpses and there was moments of her maybe thinking that there was something else that had happened, but I don't think she ever really knew or could remember what had actually happened. Did we always have that ending, or was that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was, okay. I don't know why I thought Did we?
Well, I
It was a
mean,
bit different.
the role was written for Georgia, so she knew she had the part. I think before the final script was written, so
Yeah.
I think we you know, handballed a few different scenarios too, and then in the end it was like, so you did know in the end.
I did know, but it was probably good for me that I didn't really know, because then I guess I could just play the character how I actually thought the mindset that she was in.
Yeah.
Alright, so obviously colour was hugely important to the subtext of the film. Without giving the game away, if you don't want to, could you speak a little bit about the symbolism of that, and specifically the shift from a focus on yellow and red to terracotta tones?
Well, I know everyone is dying to get drunk, so I'll keep it
Everyone's
short.
talking about terracotta tones!
Yes, terracotta tones and sepia. Jeez.
Are we going to get teal in there, maybe?
I'll shorten the answer if that's okay. Yeah, look, I guess the whole design of it, and there's, like I said before, there's a lot of hidden motives and symbolisms and things to hopefully, you know, entice people to watch it the second time and third, and you'll get things out of it. But all I can say is that the whole film is from Sonia's POV. So all the colours, everything that you see, you know, are sort of shades, different shades of her personality. So, and you know, her fears, her desires, her fantasies, her insecurities, all of that. So we spent a lot of time, again, with Polly, working on the colour palette and just making sure that it aligned with you know, Sonia's character. So. We'll talk about Teal later.
Maybe one more question before, yep.
Yep, congratulations on the film, once again, everyone's saying, very good, I loved it, it was great. I was just wondering, on working with the two child actors for Violet and also for the younger version of Sonia, how did you approach it with them, and as well with, for Georgia, how did you sort of communicate with, like Violet, or did you have any communication with your younger self into sort of getting a more deeper understanding of how you're going to connect these two characters from these two different times?
Well, Violet was easy because the young actress that played Violet is my daughter. So that was easy. So many conversations at the dinner table. And the young girl, Marnie Shanks, who plays the young Sonia, she was just incredible, you know, like just unbelievable. She had such a way of just listening to me. I mean, I think she was 9 when we shot that. I would just speak to her. I would just say things, give her directions, and she would remember every single thing. So again, I was a bit of serendipity for me, and you know, it was just, you know, I'm grateful that I've worked with people that are just, you know, so incredible. So I don't know if that answers your question, but look, for me it was easy, you know, and it was you know, discussion, listening, and I guess trying to make them feel like you know, that they could do things, that they could, you know, have a creative choice. And you know, I always like to let my actors just do whatever they're thinking for the first take, you know, because you might not ever see what they've done if you don't give them that opportunity. So yeah, there was a bit of freedom there. It wasn't that difficult, you know, with the younger cast.
It was also very light-hearted set. Like, even though it's very dark on the film, like there was many jokes being made, and I'd met V back in 2018 when we shot The Crossing, so I already knew her quite well. Not like a daughter, I don't have any kids, but it was definitely great to already have that relationship, and I think we were lucky in that sense that we already had that connection.
We're going to have to wrap it up, but thank you so much for partaking in the Q&A. Absolutely fabulous to have Violet closing the festival. Really, really special. I'd like to invite everyone to come down to Webster's, which is about 100 metres down the road. There's a bourbon bar upstairs. We can drink and continue chatting and talking and chewing the fat. If you'd like to have a photograph, we've got Laura, I think, still here to shoot against the media wall. Yeah, thank you so much for coming to closing night, for seeing any other films that you might have seen during a night of horror. As I said, I know this is the last one, but don't despair, because Dark Nights Film Fest will fill that void. So thank you. Long live the